Hey, it's Soul with another video brought to you by the very exceptional people that allow me to continue bringing you World of Warcraft coverage. With that out of the way, you better close your curtains and lock your doors, because those peddlers of the Holy Light are gonna try to make you an offer that you might find hard to refuse. In recent years, the story of Warcraft has made noticeable shifts in what it eyes as a villain. In its earliest days, there was no villain. There was just orcs versus humans, and they wanted to kill each other. But over 25 years of franchise history, the world of Warcraft grew well beyond Azeroth and into an entire universe. From it, the foundation of this great dark beyond was assembled. Here we have the collection of great powers of the known universe and the representatives who wield its powers. Central to that is what I'm going to call the original conflict, this collision of light and void energies that make everything that we see today, from the titans to the elemental powers to the planets that we visit, the races that we play, and the loot that still refuses to drop. When we consider the passage of time in the Warcraft universe, at least on a cosmic scale, like millions, billions of years, the conflicts of what we've observed in the franchise so far seem really insignificant in comparison. But when you connect the dots, you take a look at every path taken, every battle, all of these points can eventually connect, after a number of degrees, to this original conflict. And yet, from what we as consumers of content experience throughout the games and the comics, the novels, the movie, the swag and all that, we've only really been exposed to one side of the story, the Void. We already know that the Void wants to consume the Great Dark Beyond, whatever that means. It chucked old gods into planets in order to spread its corruption. It wants to turn everything into nothing. That's the end game. Using a nascent or a sleeping or a baby titan is one way to meet that goal, or it's the method in which to really make that happen. But regardless, the Void, they're bad news. As players, as champions of Azeroth, we would love to think ourselves as so important that the final story of Warcraft is going to be us versus the threat of the looming Void. But that's not the original conflict. The original conflict, the Chronicle didn't start with us. It started with this light versus void thing. And yet there's, at least at present, there is no equivalent to a light version of the Void Lords, the old gods, or the etceteras. At least kind of. So we're going to explore that idea, but this video isn't meant to reveal the hidden truth or piece together this really clever narrative that's gonna blow your mind. I'm much too droll for that. But I am going to take a stab at what I think Blizzard is trying to do with this whole Void/Light arc. I'm going to line up what little information that we have when it comes to the possible endgame for the Light, and then what might happen in this upcoming patch. It's not a huge thing, but it's just something to think about. And this will be fun because in a few short weeks we'll find out just how wrong I am after all the data mining. Ooh, I can't wait. But first, let's talk about a different story that you might be familiar with. It's a story that takes place in freaking space, about a space station named Babylon 5. It's a pretty decent show if you're into aliens and funny hair and all that jazz. A very big chunk of Babylon 5's story features the conflict between two ancient races. One of the races is referred to as the Shadows, these spider-like, they're inky and scary and they're shadowy. The other race is called the Vorlon. They're mysterious, wise, they have crazy technology, and they're equal in power to the Shadows. Once upon a time, these two races gave themselves the job to guide the growth of their galaxy, but over time, they had different views on how to go about it. The Shadows believed in survival of the fittest, initiate chaos, conflict, and strife, add a little bit of suffering too. Whatever survives the aftermath is something stronger, greater than what it once was. Social Darwinism, if you will. By contrast, the Vorlons believed in order and education. With close instruction and development of the young races, the Vorlons would mold them into thriving civilizations. The disagreement between the Shadows and Vorlons as to which way was better turned into a violent conflict, but it wasn't a direct confrontation between these powerful and destructive races. Instead, they fought wars by proxy, manipulating the younger, developing races that were loyal to them to fight their battles for them. It's like parents pitting their children against each other in some sport, and whoever came out the winner would prove that parent right. There are some pretty strong parallels to draw from here, like it's pretty overt. In Babylon 5, most of these younger races, they side with the Vorlons and they call themselves the Army of Light. This idea of a proxy war is not an uncommon story trope, and I strongly believe that Blizzard is starting to push for this to become the long-term theme of the Warcraft story, at least on the cosmic level. The Shadows are basically the Void, who embrace all truths and incite chaos. In the end, one of those truths may end up right, and that's a win for them. The Vorlons would be like the Light, who embrace order and, more importantly, obedience. They thrive on destiny or prophecy, but they work directly into making that happen, so hey, the prophecy came true. So if this is in fact true and the story is going in this direction, Blizzard has been playing catch up. They're trying to create dots and then connect them into a coherent thread. By contrast, the story of Babylon 5 already had its story planned out from start to finish, but we're just comparing a TV show to a video game, so it kind of stops there. But Blizzard does have its work cut out for it when it comes to evening the playing field between the Light and the Void presence, considering all the lore that's already been established with the Void and the old gods. There's considerably less to show about the Light's presence and influence in the world, but it's starting to come together. By now we all know the story of Xera, the Prime Naru who had clear intentions to turn Illidan into a warrior of the light, whether he wanted to or not. Even though that didn't turn out to be successful, it revealed a side of the Naru that we haven't seen, one that exercises obedience through force. We've seen small demonstrations of savagery from the Lightforged Draenei, although that only furthers the point that the Light, like any of the other powers, is a force to be wielded. But similar to the elements, it requires a certain relationship, and in this case, it's faith in the Light. Otherwise, if only morally good people could use the Light, then you wouldn't have a Scarlet Crusade. I should also both address and dismiss the visions that Alleria Windrunner received in the 1,000 Years of War narrative. They sound compelling, maybe outright frightening, but from the reading, they're just the visions that were put into Alleria's head by the Void. These visions illustrate the possibility of what the Light is capable of, but it's not, actual visual proof of its intentions. At present, the most clear display of the Light being as aggressive and fanatical as the Void comes from Exarch Yrel, who is the leader of the Lightbound. I would describe the situation, but instead I'm just going to read from an item that we receive in-game called the Sermon of the High Exarch. And no, you're not getting an accent. Brothers and sisters, decades have passed since the last vestiges of the Legion were driven from Draenor. We could not have accomplished this noble undertaking without the help of the Orc clans, united as the Maghar. Our fondest wish is for all the people of Draenor to remain unified in purpose. Sadly, this dream is not shared by all by those who once stood beside us. Many noble orcs have embraced the Light. Exarch Hellscream has been an example for his people to follow. Yet sadly, his own father resists the true path. I believe with all my heart that the Maghar are destined to join us as servants of the Light. But first, they must be taught to trust the Naru as we do. The Light Mother has blessed me with visions. I know that one day the army of the Light will march across the great dark beyond and bring order to countless worlds. That bold future begins here, with us. We must make Draenor whole again. I call upon you all to ensure that the future promised by the Light Mother is fulfilled. Purge the infection that prevents Draenor's heart from being whole. The Light will forge a new future for the orcs. But first, we must save the Maghar from themselves. No more division. No more defiance. In the Light, we shall be one. I don't know about you, but this kind of comes off as pretty crazy. I'll read off a couple of key phrases that set off a few flags like true path, servants of the Light, trust the Naru, visions, bringing order to countless worlds, purge the infection, save the Maghar from themselves, and, the rest of it too. This doesn't read as the kind of inspirational speech that encourages dialogue and understanding. It's basically, they're wrong, we're right, let's get fired up and really show them how right we are. Also, the Lightbound demonstrate a certain power called Blessing of Eternity during this Maghar campaign, which helps support the idea of crystallizing entire worlds or civilizations. You're not alive, you're not dead, you're just still. This is some very weak speculation of mine, it's coming from like nothing, but should we be at all surprised if one day Yrel and her Lightbound were to make an actual appearance on Azeroth? Like, what if they were to pull an Iron Horde and they rebuilt the Dark Portal once again? I mean, it started off as what I think like green, and then it turned red, and then I guess in this case it would turn yellow. And the Fanatical Lightbound would just start steamrolling through with their Draenei war machines, and they would be on this Radiance Crusade to purge Azeroth of its impurities, which is like all of us. Come on, not all of us are very pure. But the notion of this, the Army of the Light coming to get us, that's not so far-fetched. Most currently, with patch 8.2.5 of Battle for Azeroth looming closer, we're now seeing the latest game piece entering the board, the reanimated corpse of Calia Menethil. But Calia herself may not be the problem. There's probably absolutely nothing inherently wrong with her, apart from being the living dead, of course. I believe in her good intentions. I believe that she believes in the warmth of the light and the good that it does. She believes in the messaging. It's possible, but I have doubts that she's going to suddenly turn heel and consume all of Stormwind in holy fire in an effort to purge the non-believers. Unlike Yrel, who's been spreading the word and aggressively converting people to her side, Calia only needs to play a certain role, a symbol of faith. Imagine Calia being presented to the people, like,
"Gaze upon her, a queen befell by tragedy, with a corrupted brother, her kingdom lost, and then, while in service of the light, one blackened arrow to the heart made her a victim of the Banshee Queen during what should have been a moment of joy. And yet the light blessed her with renewed life, a gift, a reward for her unwavering faith in the light. It's faith, not necromancy or dark magic, that will defeat death. She is faith given form. Faith can win this war and bring back your loved ones. All you need to do is pledge yourself fully to the light, and it will save you from darkness and protect you from a final fate."
That's a heck of a sell, right? There are loreheads among us who wonder if the light just straight up controls people's minds. We've read that the light has been used to ease doubts and to instill courage into troubled minds. We can sort of kind of twist that around too and say that the light can lower our mental guards and condition our behavior, especially if you're exposed to a power like that on a long-term consistent basis, kind of like Yrel, kind of like Calia. What we still don't know is how exactly the forces of light purify worlds. We can't fully rely on the visions of the void, and there's not enough information about AU Draenor other than the planet drying up. It is possible that Draenor's desiccation is part of this process that will eventually crystallize the planet in a sort of stasis, but that's a total guess. It just wouldn't surprise me that for all the tentacle void planets that we see out there, there are an almost equal number of crystallized golden planets out there. It's just that both of them are equally uninhabitable. Something to speculate on though would be the actual endgame for the light. The Void seeks to corrupt Azeroth, the last known Titan before it awakens. A corrupted Titan infused with Void energy is, well, they're supposedly an unstoppable force that will remake the Great Dark Beyond into the Void's image, which is like we're screwed, basically. And we know that this is a real threat, considering that the old gods keep trying to break into the Chamber of Heart. If the forces of the light, notably the Naru, if they seek the same goal, then they're being really chill about it. But that could be their little deception as well, having the same objective as the Void, but having an entirely different approach. Because let's say that the World Soul is in fact the objective for both parties. N'Zoth and the other minions of the Void are plainly acting as an antagonist. They're flying against the values of the citizens of Azeroth, they're using force and deception to break its way in. The Naru, though, well, they're trying to play the role of the good guy. They're the benevolent force. They're just trying to help. It could come to the point where the Naru are just invited into the Chamber of Heart and asked to heal the World Soul, with no one having an idea of what that would mean. If the Naru can Lightforge people, is it possible to Lightforge a World Soul? Would the Naru have to create their own bright empire because it'll take that long to fully corrupt Azeroth? And in the end, can the forces of the light cause a light titan to manifest? And would this light-possessed Azeroth reshape the Great Dark into an image of the light? And would that re-image be any different? Would that just mean the end of life as we know it? But let's start wrapping this up. I'm asserting here that Blizzard is making a story arc that will one day, not today, not tomorrow, but one day, it'll reveal that the light and the void are starting this whole proxy war thing using us as their soldiers. The old gods, the Naru, the Church of Holy Light versus the Twilight cultists, the champions of Azeroth. They're telling one side to destroy the other because they're not like us. They're trying to stop whatever plans we have. In Babylon 5, these younger races eventually discover that they're all being manipulated into fighting each other for the sake of the Vorlons and the Shadows. And they're fed up. In a grand and violent fashion, they reject the races they looked up to and insist that they're no longer needed. The galaxy has outgrown the need for their guidance. And to cut the story short, the Shadows and the Vorlons, they just leave, and the story arc ends. It's hard to predict if this is actually something we're going to read up on, let alone experience in the game. And personally, I don't care to, because the cosmic events in the Warcraft universe don't need to be addressed as quickly as all the events that we've experienced in the past 15 years of the world of Warcraft. It's a lot of stuff that's been compressed. I was good with having to beat back a Legion plot every, 4 or 5 years or so. So I'm definitely good with these looming threats coming from the extremists who represent the Void or the Light. They just don't have to be an immediate threat all the time. The story of Warcraft could use a lot more breathing room for more adventures, more good guys and bad guys that aren't about
the end of all things.
But I want to thank you for letting me share some of my crazy thoughts today. So please hit the like button if you enjoyed yourself, subscribe to the channel for more of this and all things Warcraft, and consider becoming a patron because, well, that'd be great too. But I'll see you next time. Until then, stay safe, stay happy, and stay breezy.